Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 415. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by Jim. Get me to a Lazarus pit, so says the sensei of the whatnot, Segulin, and the Duke of You-Know.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, we're talking about Batgirl number 37. We're talking about Grayson number 5, Batwoman number 36, Detective Comics number 37, and Batman and Robin number 37. A very packed episode. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network, the League of Comic Book Podcasts, and the InfiniteComics.com podcast partnership. Sponsoring this episode is DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, I know you and I are big fans of these variants, and they're doing once again the December 2014 DC Comics Harley Quinn variant bundle. You can get all of the Harley Quinn issues, the variants. They're regularly $74.78. The discount is 45% off, only $41.12. If you like collecting these variant covers, this is the way to get them. When they start going on eBay, some of the issues invariably are very hard to find, and you start paying a premium for these covers. 45% off over at DCBService.com. That makes a big difference for me, 45% off, being able to get them at that price point. Especially when you're paying $41.12 instead of $74 for them. I know for you, you ran in the same boat for that one.
Oh, God, yeah. I've been getting all of these variant covers, and I saw that the Harley Quinn ones were up. I'm like, yes, jump. Immediately click on these things without even a second hesitation, because I like this. I like the look of these things, and each of the different, it's multiple issues. You know, we got, 22 issues, 25 issues that are 22 issues. 22 different lines that are running these variant covers, and I enjoy them, and I've been getting them, and I'm going to keep getting them.
Yeah, that to me that's a collectability to it, and it's something unique where they end up taking great artists and just putting really unique covers on that make it fun to read. These are the kind of things I'd like to get signed at conventions, to be able to get certain cover artists to sign the books where they do these variants, because I just think they're very unique and interesting, and I hope they keep doing them. I hope they're successful. Over at InStockTrades.com, they've got the Batman and Robin hardcover, Volume 5, The Big Burn. This collects Batman and Two-Face 24 to 28 and Batman and Robin Annual Number 2. It's 178 pages. It's a $24.99 book regularly. 50% off, only $12.49 from InStockTrades.com. Remember, orders of $50 or more give you free shipping. Be sure to check them out every week, because they always do deals of the week where they have multiple books at 50% off. That's InStockTrades.com. James, what kind of a podcast are we?
The Raging Bullets podcast is a spoiler show with plotline, story, twist, whatnot, what-ish, and we go in depth into the books review on the show. So if you haven't read them, come back later on, so you'll better enjoy the show.
Let's talk some comics.
Nice work, Atom. What are these characters up to?
Jim, I want to talk quickly, if I can, about, we'll have an in-depth discussion about this, because there's a controversy relating to it. It's Batgirl number 37. Cameron Stewart and Brendan Fletcher are the writers, Babs Tarr artist, Cameron Stewart on breakdowns, Maris Wicks colors, Jared K. Fletcher letters, Cameron Stewart cover, Bengal and Darwin Cook the variant covers, Dave Wheel Goes, associate editor, Chris Conroy editor, Mark Doyle group editor, and apologies for any name butchery there. I want to talk about this book because there was a lot of controversy behind this one. Gail Simone in her run developed a transgender character that was very positively written and very well received. The controversy with this one came from because this character was, I don't know so much transgender as a cross-dresser, but portrayed in a negative light. What was your take on that? Because I didn't get that when I read the book. I got it that the character was, this bad guy cross-dresser, but I didn't make this generalization due to it. Where were you at with that? Did that even hit you, or did it not? And there's no right or wrong. I'm just curious.
Well, it's funny because when you first said there's the controversy, I'm like, controversy? What could be controversial? Then as you started talking, I'm like, okay, I wonder if it's that. And I just read it as a bad guy.
Yeah.
I honestly, when I was going through this, I just saw it as another villain that Batgirl had to face. It's one of those things where, they're not evil because of what they do, because of, choices. They're evil because they're a bad guy, because they do bad things. If the imposter Batgirl had turned out to be a female dressed up like Batgirl, she still would be a bad guy because what she did. Or if he was a bad guy dressed up as Batman, he still would be a Batman. Just the fact that it's his actions that define him as a villain, not his lifestyle choices.
Yeah, see, to me, the idea was to create a character that was flamboyant and over the top, which the Batman world's known for. Now, if this was like a history of, wow, this creative team, every villain they create has this kind of thing about them, you start to go, okay, wait a minute. They've got an issue. But this is one singular villain that's been created this way. It was hardly like a controversy to me. It was very strange. Some of the comments that I read on it that I thought were really troublesome was somebody actually wrote that, wow, this negates what Gale did in her run. And I'm like, well, how does it do that? I mean, those stories happened, and I thought the positive story about transgender was really great. I liked that. My problem with this, and people have got to be cautious about making controversies about things like this. I think we're at a time where people are getting more and more comfortable with using unique characters and adding diversity into comics in a way that's more relaxed and comfortable, where you're seeing more positive portrayals. But also, I don't want it to always be pigeonholed into that. Really, if we want truly diverse characters in comics, characters of all different kinds of interests and backgrounds and everything, and I'm going to sum that up poorly, but of all different kinds of walks of life and preferences and whatever, should be used in comics and in media in general in all different roles. Foreground, background, good guy, bad guy, somewhere in the middle, supporting cast, everything. And we should get to the point where we're desensitized to that, where it's just kind of, wow, that's just the way it is. That's what I want. The only way we're going to get there is if we don't throw a fit every time a character is used in a way that may not be our preference. This is not a history of, at least with this creative team, they've only done this with one character. It's funny how I have issues with this book. That is not my issue with this book. It's really not. It was a fun story. It was a wacky, over-the-top character. I don't see this being a major reoccurring character in the book, although I might be wrong. We'll see what ends up. I guess now with the controversy, I'm guessing we won't see this character again.
See, I now want to see this character again. I want to see this character reoccurring just because it angered people and it annoyed people. Because for me, it's, again, I said, he's just another villain. That just happens to be his thing. This doesn't negate anything. This doesn't go against anyone. This is a bad guy. This is who they are. It's, one of the things I always have issue, and I don't want to say issues with, but I want to see, like Batman go up against a female villain. And I don't want to see Batman beat up a woman or anything like that. But I would like to see the fact that there are evil females out there. And Batman, and they come to Gotham, Batman's got to deal with them. And I like seeing Superman deal with a female villain, because it's different them handling it. And you know what? It's same thing with Barbara. I don't just want to see her go up against females. I want to see her go up against men. I want to see her go up against this guy or girl or however he wishes to identify themselves. I want to see this diversity in our villains. We're getting some diversity in heroes. We're getting some diversity in supporting cast. But on the villain side, we're not seeing a lot of diversity where it comes to who they're going to face. Usually you're going to get a lot of times where the hero and the villain will have the same backgrounds. The same either ethnic makeup, same sex, or there'll be a lot of similarities between them. I want to see them just completely go topsy-turvy with stuff and let us any character anyway, where you don't know where it's going to come from, because that is more of real life. There are good people and bad people of all walks of life, and we need to start seeing the bad people of different walks of life. And so I didn't even think twice about this character. I didn't even think twice about any controversy. I was reading it for the story. I was reading it for the artwork, and it's funny because I'm trying to get adjusted to. It's still weird for me to see when I see Batgirl, I don't see Gail Simone's name on it. It's still an adjustment for me, so I got to still get used to this character. And I like the fact that he went that route. I like the fact that this creative team gave us something different and said, hey, let's have all types of villains in this universe. I actually was very happy with that. And that was something I kind of started liking. I'm like, they're going for it. They're going to do some cool stuff here. I'm looking forward to what's going to happen next with Batgirl.
Yeah, see, it's funny. That's not my issue with this book. My issue with this book is and I shouldn't say issue. I'm having fun with the book. I like the stories. I like the art a great deal. I think it's an interesting art style. It's a fun book. I'm enjoying that part of it. I feel this should be Batgirl Earth 1. It's funny, when we were reading the Teen Titans Earth 1, and there was that bat symbol there. As I've been reading this one, I've been saying to myself, I wish this Batgirl was the bat symbol that they were talking about, because I think she would work well with that team. I don't dislike this book. I just feel like she's been disaged. Or de-aged, I should say. De-aged, I'm inventing brand new words. I had the flu all week, and I'm like, my head's like swimming right now. But I feel like she's been de-aged. And I was a big fan of the run beforehand, so that's the part for me as a longtime fan of this run of Batgirl that I'm having a little trouble with. But I'm enjoying the stories. I like the stories that are being written here. I just feel like that's the disconnect for me. So I felt like, as I'm reading this book, I'm like, oh, wow, if this had been Batgirl Earth 1, I would have no issue. I would be like sitting here, wow, what a great fun take on Batgirl that's new and fresh. I don't feel it's completely disconnected because they've done a great job, as I mentioned when we talked about the first issue of this run. They've done a great job of connecting to supporting cast from the previous one. Bringing in Dinah, I think, was a good thing, too. So that part's been really good. I just feel like she's skewed younger, and I'm having trouble with that.
Yeah.
That's my only major issue with this book. Otherwise, I'm having fun right now. I just haven't connected completely because of that major problem. But it certainly isn't because they tried to get a little wacky with a villain. I do think my problem with that, and the reason why I wanted to talk about that at the start of this discussion, is we're running into a real danger where, if we're trying to say that we want more and more diverse characters in comics, what we should be is hoping that creators will take more risks with positive portrayals, middle portrayals of characters and villains, with all kinds of diverse backgrounds, to the point where now characters are just being used. There is no need to make big sweeping statements about what a great positive light we use this character in. It just becomes commonplace that diverse characters appear in comics. If we freak out every time a character of a diverse background is made a villain, creators are going to be gun shy about using a character, because they're stuck with, you can only use the character if you're telling this kind of stories, or else people get mad. You don't want that. You want diverse characters to have just as many issues as, our traditional, our traditional assumption about characters that appear in comics. Comics should be a breeding ground of unique takes. It's one of the reasons why I think lines like Vertigo have been so interesting, because you tend to see diverse characters like this in Vertigo more often in positive roles and middle ground roles, and of course as villains as well, because it just seems to be more accepting that you're going to try to tackle more mature things there. It worked here. I didn't actually have an issue with this villain. I thought it was interesting. I didn't take it in any way, shape, or form as being a negative statement about any group of people. It just was trying to make a unique and interesting villain that hasn't been done in quite a while. Because I don't, and maybe you can point it out I don't remember the last time that I saw a cross-dressing villain in comics. I've seen them before, don't get me wrong, but I don't think this is something that's really prevalent.
I don't recall ever not in comics. I don't recall ever, and I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I not a villain that that's their thing, and completely because this guy, because I don't think he's transgender. I think he's cross-dressing, and again, I'm not 100% certain on what are differences between the different terminology, etc. So I don't want to insult anybody, but my understanding is trans means you consider yourself to be that's what you can. If you were born a man, but you consider yourself a female, you call yourself a female, you're transgender. The cross-dressing is you're a man, you consider yourself a man, you just like wearing women's clothing. And you just wear, like Ed Wood, the director. He, was a very famous cross-dressing person where he, wore women's clothing, but he considered himself 100% to be a man. He just liked the clothing. That's what is his thing. I think this villain's more of a cross-dressing type of villain. And that's the difference between what we saw previously in the book. We saw a transgender person. She was, female. She considered herself to be female, and that's how she identified and addressed herself, and just whether she was born that way or not, that's who she was. And that's why this character and that one are so dramatically different. So I understand people may be upset with the character, maybe. I didn't see it. I thought it was kind of a nice, I thought it was a neat thing that they're going with, and that they weren't going cookie cutter villains, and they were actually pushing the envelope, because like you, the de-aging of Barbara Gordon really has affected me, and that's still the thing that I still can't get 100% latched on, but the story that's being told is neat. I'm enjoying this story that's being told of Barbara, just how she's rebuilding herself. She lost all her equipment. She's getting a new crew. She's in a new area of Gotham. She's doing different stuff, and she is still Barbara Gordon, but she's got to rebuild herself. And so for me, I was like, he was just another villain. And it was just another person that Barbara had to take down. I didn't think about it anything beyond that.
Well, I mean, if you look at the Bat universe in general, traditionally, Bat villains have been wacky white guys and sultry females. I mean, that was the traditional start. When you think of Batgirl, Catwoman, Poison Ivy, characters like that, they tend to fall into a certain category. You look at the Penguin, the Joker, Two-Face, those are characters that tend to fall. Obviously they're diverse in their own way, but certainly not representative of, the general population of the world. I'm always leery with labels like cross-dressing and transgender, because I don't think they're as simple as the label implies. I don't think you can say that every cross-dresser has, a certain mindset or certain reason why they do what they do, or need what they need. And I'm always cautious to try to label that as one thing, because I don't think it is. I think that's oversimplifying something that is very personal. I think the same thing with transgender. It's very personal. So, just as personal as, heterosexual, I think, that looks very different between a variety of different people and their own preferences as far as what that looks like. So I don't know. I found it really bizarre that was the part that people seem to be outraged about the story. Because I'm still on the de-aged Batgirl. Although it's starting to grow on me that, she's got this buddy, that's involved in tech, and her research skills that are going into that. That part I like. We're seeing some traditional Barbara Gordon skill set coming into this as she's working around the area where she's working. And that part is growing on me.
And here's the interesting thing. I think, part of the reason I'm thinking, a de-aged Barbara is just because of the art change. Mm-hmm. And it could be, this Barbara could very easily be the same age as the other Barbara, just the way she's being drawn now is different than what was done before. Because she's not acting immature. She's not acting like a kid. So her personality is still the same. And that's why I'm like, I don't completely, I'm still working to get my hands on it, because I still see Barbara Gordon that I knew, but, she looks so much different. She looks so much younger. And that's the weird dichotomy that I'm going through, because I have moments where I look and I say, okay, yeah, that's Barb's, that's Babs right there. All, 100% her, that person that we know and love. And then I look, and another time I'm like, she looks like a high school kid. And there is times, and I think it's a lot of the physical stuff that's throwing me, and that's something I got to get comfortable with.
See, I quite like the art, so I wanted to defend that, but I see your point. Sometimes in the dialogue I feel that way, although it could be, she's got a different attitude right now. She's trying to live life, whereas, things got very dark for her previously. So we do go through life changes where when we start having more fun, we start presenting ourselves a little differently because we're having fun. So, maybe that could be part of it. Here's the question I have for you. because when we talked about this last time, you were really in a difficult place with this book. I was definitely more interested in it than you were. Where are you at now with this book?
Oh, I'm in a lot better place than I was last time. And as I said, this issue really was a really cool issue for me. And again, I'm still not at the same. This isn't the same level that the Gail Simone run was, but it is getting there. It is. I am starting to really dig this, Barbara. I'm starting to dig this universe now. This run. It's a couple issues into it, and it's growing more on me. I'm like more. There's more stuff that I find really cool. There's other stuff where I'm like, wait, what? Like the scene when they're when they go to the big dagger type display that has the Batgirl. Uh-huh. And that one of those, the first couple panels we see where the posing, but then the one where she first sees the kind of Batgirl in the sexy pose, and Babs like, what the? And you just over her shoulder, you see Dinah laughing hysterically.
Yes.
And she's like, best thing ever. And she's just howling right there. That's panel. I was like, that's a kind of, I could see those two doing that. I could see that kind of stuff happening, and then as we continue on in the art gallery, when she sees the picture of Batgirl in the wheelchair,
yes,
I was just like, those are stuff that I was like, you know what? This is that same Batgirl. This Batgirl is a Barbara trying to embrace life, trying to be free, be fun, and have more enjoyment in her life. So we're going to see just her, interacting a little bit, but there is still that darkness. There is still trained by the Bat. There is still the Bat there. And I love seeing some of those panels where you see just that, that I'm going to hurt you look on Barbara's face. You see that determination that she has when she's going to track down first Dagger, then track down who is the person behind Dagger. All this stuff, you see that level of determination that was the coolness that was Barbara Gordon. It's still there. So I'm seeing that kind of stuff. I'm seeing those moments of the character that I know and love. Okay, she's still there. The story's being told differently. It's being told cool. So I'm enjoying the story. The artwork is absolutely beautiful. No knocking on it, but it is different than what I'm used to. So, beautiful artwork that's different than other beautiful artwork is still a process for me to get adjusted to. So it's, so there are still adjustments I got to go through, but I'm in a much better place with Batgirl than I was when we previously discussed the issues.
I liked the confrontation with the gallery owner.
Yeah.
I thought that was, or the gallery promoter, I don't know what the title is, but when she does that and gets in there, we see her go into Batgirl mode. And I really liked seeing that difference between kind of like the more lighthearted Barbara, trying to enjoy life a little bit more. And I'm Batgirl. I've been violated here. This is really a slap to the face of this reputation that I've created. And I would imagine in her world, that is a critical problem. If all of a sudden you have this, you are somebody who doesn't have superpowers. You rely a lot of times on that bat symbol and the intimidation of reputation in order to carry you over. That gallery has a dire effect distancing that. She now becomes more of a sex symbol than a dark, kind of strong force. There's a huge distinction between the two. And I could see her being angry about that. I quite liked that sequence. But the gallery owner coming back and going, hey, can you sign these? Because they're going to be worth so much more. That's so today's economy and what people would do. I thought that was just a great sequence. Very well written there. And that's the part I'm enjoying the build in this book. I like the fun. It's not too over the top. That's the part where you've got to keep like a line there. I do feel the de-aging part for me is the part where I'm feeling more this is Batgirl Earth 1 to me right now. I feel like it's as it continues to grow, that will change for me. I'm just not there yet. So it is a part where I do feel disconnected because of that, which is hard for me because I'm a huge Batgirl fan, but I'm liking what they're developing here. So I'm of two minds. It's more like a torn situation, which I think is probably very normal for somebody who's seen such a big status quo change in a title, versus somebody who's maybe jumping on board this new that doesn't have that baggage. I'd be very curious, actually, if anybody listening is new to the book, you weren't reading it previously, or maybe you weren't connecting with it previously and you're liking this run, call in. I'd love to hear that, because I was a huge fan of the previous run, so that's where I'm having a little bit of a problem right now. But I say it's little because I'm having fun with it. You know, like, this is not on the chopping block for me by any stretch. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
But you made a comment before. It's not where the previous run is for you, and that's where I'm at. I'm not. Yeah. It's not there for me. I'm hoping it gets there because I'm having fun. I would like it to get to that point where I'm like, wow, it's at that place. I'm just not there yet. I'm tentative. But tentative is a place that a creative team can grow me from. So I think I'm where they would want me to be.
Yeah, I'm at a growth stage right now, and I'm looking at it, and it's, again, as you talked about Earth 1 earlier. I like that comparison because it does feel like that, but I want this to be our Earth, because this Barbara is pretty cool still. There is some neat stuff going on with her and her dynamic that she's, this team she's building around her now. I want to see that grow. I want to see her. I want to, I always like the superheroes that have the support team around them. And Babs is one of those people that she could have a good support team because she's a good person. I could see, if you get to know her, and you find out she's Batgirl, you'd want to be the support. You'd want to be in the Bat Cave, or you'd want to be that person who helps her just because she is a cool person. So it's, this is a character. I like who the character is, and I like the book, and I'm enjoying the stories being told now. It's, but it is a different Batgirl. It is a different look to a Batgirl, and there is different stuff that it's still growing, and with regards to chopping block, this isn't even close to being on the block for me now. It's, this is a very solid title in the stack. This is a very solid read. This is one that I do want to keep reaching for, sooner. That I'm not stockpiling these issues because I just want to see where this goes. I'm in that intriguing stage. I'm like, I want more to see who she is, who this universe is. So right now I'm in a very good, I'm in a very good place when it comes to this title because I am curious, because I am interested in her.
I liked when the dagger type reveal happened and that whole combat sequence there. I do love the artistic team's style of combat in this. Because that's an important part of Batgirl for me. I liked seeing her physical combat. And that I thought was handled very well in that sequence where we got to see her acrobatics. Because that is probably one of the... Gail, in her run, was talking about like the kind of the dancer style of her. And that's something that I think has been more prevalent in the comics right now. That there's a different sort of combat to Barbara Gordon than Dick Grayson, for example. I like that distinction between her. And you kind of see that poetry of her in this book. There's something to that combat. There's something pretty about it when it goes through. And I like that. Yet powerful. So I want to be clear on that. There's I guess maybe an elegance to the combat that I quite like seeing in this. Even when she's shot at and she dives backwards, there's a grace to that should come from an acrobatic skill, I think is what I'm looking for. But from a dancing background versus a trapeze artist like Dick Grayson, I like that distinction. There was something about that difference in training, difference in where you came up to this, that I think should be distinct. And I thought it worked really well. Yeah,
and with Barbara, with a dancing background, fighting style that's different than even Dick Grayson because he's an acrobat, definitely different than Bruce because of his training. I've always liked the fact that each of the Bats have their own distinctive fighting style. And we still haven't lost that with this Barbara, with this Babs, the way she's drawn. And I was like, that's kind of neat. I'm glad that, again, because those are some of the really, really impressive stuff with the previous run was how the physical action was drawn. And we're still getting that great flow through with the fight sequences, with the shooting sequence, with that diving off the bridge, that we're still getting that type of action. And it's funny, just the reveal, that dagger type reveal where he says, "I am Batgirl," and everyone's like, what? I did really like some of the comments that people were making in the background. They're like, what? He's just trying to get our money. Faker. Why does everything cool turn out to be an ad? And I like the fact that was the reason everyone was mad at him. It wasn't because he was a guy dressed up as a female. It was because they're like, oh man, what the heck? We came here thinking we're going to get an actual reveal of Batgirl. All we're getting is this artist guy trying to, do this. What is this stuff? This is crazy. And I like the fact that that's why they turned on him. And that's why they didn't, why they didn't embrace him as the Batgirl. And of course, then he goes nuts because he's not exactly the most sane person in the world. You can kind of see that in those final moments when he pulls out the gun and starts shooting. This isn't a well-adjusted person. So, I like the fact that this is how all this fell apart for him. And especially the fact that it wasn't Batgirl that took him out, but Barbara Gordon. She wasn't in costume at the time, and it wasn't Batgirl, but it was Barbara taking him down. I thought that was awesome.
So do you think the issue would be, and I could see where this would be a sensitive piece, because he's so crazy? Do you think the idea is because he's a crossdresser because he's crazy? Do you think that's what the controversy is? Because to me, I took it as he's a lunatic. I didn't take it that the cross-dressing was caused by that. He's just crazy, over the top. And I thought the cross-dressing was just part of his whole, it's very common nowadays in music and art to have that more of an artsy thing going on, which I don't think that's crazy. I think that's part of that world. But I think Dagger type is crazy. So there's a whole distinction there. I don't know if that's the edge. I guess here's the part. I took it that he was a crazy villain. I wasn't taking it that the cross-dressing was a part of his crazy. But I could see that being the stickling point where you kind of go, well, wait a minute. Cross-dressers are typically portrayed as being a little off or something like, you know what I'm saying? I could see that being the part. I didn't connect that, and I don't feel that's the case. And I would caution that we want to go away from that because I really look at it as he's a lunatic, which is typical for Gotham, who just happens to be a cross-dresser versus the cross-dressing being a symptom of his lunacy. I didn't get that from the story.
I'm in the same boat. I didn't think of him as being crazy because he cross-dresses, but I could see if people were thinking that's what they were trying to tell in the story, then I could understand why someone would be angry with that. But I 100% didn't read that. I took it that the dude's a little bit, if he was dressed up as Batman, I'd still say he was nuts. If this whole thing was, and if they did everything the exact same thing where it was Batman instead of, Batgirl, I would still say the guy was nuts if he did the same thing.
Sure.
The cross-dressing for me isn't anything to do with this. With his craziness or proof of his craziness. So I just took him as another villain that she had to take down. And I liked this story and I liked how this turned out. And I liked the fact that at the end, it was his fans who turned on him because they said, hey, this is bull. You're just trying to sell another painting. This isn't real, faker, and all that stuff. I thought that was a great way for his fall to grace to happen.
Yeah, because they were immediately kind of going, wait a minute, this, we thought we were really following the real Batgirl. And that, you were showing depictions of the real Batgirl, not this.
Just, yeah.
Yeah. It was, I quite liked it. I thought it was a really well-handled story because of that. I could see, I guess, reading over that sequence right now as we're talking, I'm like, okay, I could see where this would be the controversy. And I could see how people would think that. I'm like, all right, I kind of get that. Being fair, I kind of get that part. I didn't read it that way. I'd love us to get to the point where, even if it was blatantly that he's crazy and the cross-dressing is part of it, even if that was the point, I'd like to get us to the point where, in comics and in media in general, you can have characters where, cross-dressing's their thing, and it's got nothing to do with being off. You know what I mean? It's just kind of, it's part of who you are. And I don't know. I think that there's ways to portray that and do both without getting mad every time you use something because look at Gotham villains in general have got a whole bunch of crazy going on. They really do.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess that's, to me, is I just took it as another Gotham crazy versus the character being crazy because of cross-dressing. And I think that's where the controversy is. I really don't see it, and I didn't see it, and I'm glad I didn't see it. Because I think if you see it that way, unless you're somebody who's into cross-dressing, then I could see where you're like, excuse me, this personally connects with me that way. I could see that, and I'm not comfortable downplaying that. But if you're somebody who's not, how do you get that? I didn't generate that point. I don't know. I thought it was a fun story, a little wacky, and not my issue with the book.
Yeah, and I like the ending where we get the introduction of Liam Powell, who, if I'm not mistaken, that's the person she 5 years later will get married to.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I like that. And especially it was a great moment where he's like, hey, that was really brief. Wait, you're Commissioner's daughter, right? Yeah. And you get that moment, and, kind of that blushing from Barbara. I was like, oh, that's cool. Introducing of this character. Where's this going to go?
Yeah, I'm glad that they didn't shy away from things from the previous run. I give the creative team credit for that. That part I'm trying to connect with. I also give them credit for apologizing for the controversy, because obviously you do a story like this and you don't set out to offend somebody. I hope our comments here didn't offend anybody, but my honest take is I'm actually kind of proud of myself that I wasn't thinking that way. I just read the story, enjoyed the character for what it was. I didn't think it was some overwhelming statement on cross-dressers, and nor I wouldn't be comfortable making a generalization like that, because I don't think that you can put people into one category. So it was an interesting story. I wanted to talk about it, though, just because that controversy is interesting. And if somebody, honestly, if you were one of the people that was offended by this and you have a different take on this, I want to be educated. What am I missing? So I kind of throw these topics out there on the show, not because of the fact that we want to shy away from it or poo-poo it. If you're on that side of it where, or you feel, similarly to how we do, please feel free to share that. What did this, book do for you? It's an interesting issue, and certainly that's one of the reasons why we have a voicemail line, so please feel free to call in. Jim, anything else you want to say about Batgirl?
No.
Cool. I do want to say one thing about the use of technology. That's something that I think is a welcome growth in the book. The idea that she uses cell phones and the internet and social media and, those as different ways to contact and connect with her allies. I think that's something that Babs would do, Oracle would do. The use of the cell phone camera and the flash, the flashlight kind of thing, those kind of gadgets. It just seems very Barbara. I like that part of it. I want to see more of that. So I don't know. It's kind of and then the need at the end to have that picture taken of her to kind of her own statement. I thought that was just really
who the
good
real Batgirl is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, And I like that. Again, these are some of the stuff that that I'm getting the groove with. Especially as I said before, I like the tech stuff. I do like that they're bringing in a team and she's adding some new devices. The beginning of the issue, they had that EM blast, that EM disc that threw on the car and immediately took it out. That was an awesome little weapon for her to use. We saw her just get her new motorcycle, get the grappling gun. So she's starting to get her equipment back. And I do like the fact that she's didn't just run to Bruce Wayne and say, hey, hook me up. She's doing it on her own. And even her costume is her own. And it's going to be modifications here and there. And we're going to get, it's going to keep evolving and it's going to keep changing. I like that.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see where this book goes. That's kind of where I'm at right now with it.
Our next discussion will be on Grayson, issue number 5. The writer is Tom King, with plot by Tim Seeley and Tom King. Artist is Mikkel Janin, with colors by Jeremy Cox. Letterer Carlos M. Mangual, with cover by Mikkel Janin. Variant cover Darwin Cook. Assistant editor Matt Humphreys, with editor Mark Doyle.
This book's on my short list. I mean, every issue is like spectacular. I'm very into James Bond, that whole kind of concept anyway. And Dick Grayson as a super spy is so totally working for me because it's totally him. His morality and everything we've known about him for years and reading about him is present here. And I think that's the critical key. It's not like all of a sudden we've made him this swashbuckling super spy, so now he's completely unrecognizable. No, it's Dick Grayson as we know him trying to be a super spy. That's the distinction for me that makes this book work. The use of Midnighter here, I think, is absolutely phenomenal. I had to go back and when I started reading this one, I do like the way this book drops you into things sometimes where it's like, you're all of a sudden dropped in and I'm like, did I miss something? Like, why are we on a crashing plane? What happened here? I like that. I find it refreshing. I actually went back to issue 4 to say, did I miss something? Am I not catching something here? And That's not a knock. After I realized, oh my gosh, they're just dropping us right into the action, I went back in and I'm enjoying the film, which is being laid out before me. I really liked the whole crashing sequence and the fact that we've got a mother giving birth. They're trying to handle it midway through. We got Midnighter there, who's starting to partway through this whole discussion realize that that's Dick Grayson. Because of what happened when they started crashing. I like how that all played out as well. His reoccurring appearances in this book as not really a good guy, bad guy in the story, but a middle ground, I think has been really refreshing too, because I'm cheering for Dick Grayson, but I like Midnighter a lot. So you're kind of not sure how to feel about him in this story. And I think that kind of dichotomy is a fun thing to go on in this title. The Desert Walk was, for me, a pure pleasure, because you're dealing with this major issue of what drives you to keep going in situations where there's no realistic reason you should be able to keep going. Where do you dig up that intestinal fortitude, that extra something to keep going? Where does it come from? What keeps you going when your body says stop? How do you get up and take those few extra steps, which turned out to be a lot more steps, all the way through to just barely make it? That journey made me salivate this issue. This is just a really great title. This is easily in my top 10, if not my top 5 every month of great reads. It's just a really, and I'm talking about across comics, it's just a really terrific title that does the character of Dick Grayson justice. I've read this character since I was a little kid. This is on the short list of great runs for the character of Dick Grayson, a.k.a. Nightwing. Really good handling of this book.
Oh, God, yeah. As you're talking, I'm just nodding my head, yes, yes, yes. And I like the fact that I don't think you realized you said this. When you're talking, you said, yeah, we're dropping right in the middle of the film.
No, I knew I said it. Absolutely knew I said it. And I said it on purpose because that's how it felt to me.
Exactly, and I was going to agree with you because this book has those type of feeling, that type of action adventure. And even this, you think all they're really doing is walking. And if this was on the big screen, I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah. I've seen a couple desert survival movies, and those are all kind of neat. But this really did have me keep going because it's that whole notion of walk or die. We keep walking or we die. If we die, she's dead. So we're not dead. And it's just that pure determination, just that raw gut check of Dick Grayson that he keeps going. And I love that. And especially like the fact that they mentioned the very first page, the EMP blast that took out the helicopter or plane or whatever this thing is technically classified. I don't know if you can call it a helicopter anymore, even though it kind of looks like one because it's one of those super vehicles. But because of that EM pulse, it also took out the little whammy thing that he has on his face. So that's why Midnighter is able to recognize him, able to know who he exactly is now, where he didn't know who this guy was before. And he couldn't see past it. And I thought that was awesome. The fact that they're playing out through all this. So now we have Midnighter knowing Dick Grayson isn't dead. We have one more person in this universe who knows Dick Grayson is not dead. And I agree with you 100% on the usage of Midnighter. He is an outstanding character. I never knew anything about this guy until we started doing the show. And the first time I read him, I'm like, wait, what? Oh, this guy is awesome. And ever since then, every incarnation of him, he's one of those characters who like, they can't mess him up. Don't mess him up. Okay, he's still cool. All right, yeah, we're good. A little different here, a little different there, but he's still cool. This Midnighter that they're writing in this book has been one of, if not my top Midnighters I've been reading, because this personifies a lot of that coolness that I always thought in Midnighter. And that same coolness that is in Grayson, they're giving to him. They're giving to all the supporting cast. They're making them make you want to follow these people, make you want to read stories about them and see how they're going to react and how they're going to, just handle the situation. I'm very pumped for Grayson.
I liked the choice on the first 2 days of walking that it was basically silent panels, except for just at the bottom, we won't make it like this. That was a really good choice because you wanted this sense of there's nothing around you. There's no noise. That built a scene for me of what they're walking through. Then we get into the dialogue when they've stopped and, they're in the darkness, which is as close to shade as they're going to get in this environment, and talking around the fire. I liked the fire there because this idea that, at nighttime, the temperatures are going to change. Then there's a need, obviously to try and cook whatever food you might happen to have with you, because they weren't going to have a lot of rations because they weren't expecting to crash like this. So those parts were, I thought, really interesting as setting a mood, a tone, and isolation. And that isolation, I think, is really critical very early on in this story because it adds to the developing drama as they go forward.
Oh, God, yeah. And again, it's, as I said, I've seen desert survival stuff. I've seen, desert survival TV shows and movies and whatnot. And there are very distinctive rules, very distinctive stuff you have to do with, desert survival is one of, if not the toughest places to survive because your body can go a while without food, but without water. That's a whole nother story. You die within, especially if you're marching through the desert, especially if you're going through this, you've got, days, if not hours sometimes, depending on what you're doing and how you're doing it to make it, to survive. And I like the fact that they look at the fact that this looks hopeless for them. On paper, this isn't going to work. On paper, this is not a good situation and they're going to die. And I like the fact that they did acknowledge that. They did acknowledge that there's something good. This isn't, it's, that will to, it was a pure will to fight on, a will to live. And that's the biggest part of survival is that never give up attitude, that never give up, that never quit, mindset.
She's tough. Well, tougher than you anyway, but this desert doesn't give an inch about tough. This is about energy, how much you have, how much you're wasting, and it's pouring out of her. She won't see the end of tomorrow. And the whole dialogue bit there, I thought was absolutely fantastic. Because to me, it was just a building of what was happening to her, but to see it analyzed through Midnighter and knowing that that's who he is, that's his whole MO. It's about analyzing your fighting styles, analyzing your weaknesses, trying to find counters to what you bring to the table. That stuff was, I thought, really great and just added to the drama that was unfolding.
I liked when they finally do put her, they don't put her down, but it's, she's done walking. Grayson does take, his shirt and he does build the sunshade for him. Now it's not much, but it is a little bit of something. There is going to be a little bit of help for her and just to try to keep her out of the sun. And it's little stuff like that where you're able to persevere for a couple more hours, persevere for another day. It's, but again, she's got to have the will to live. She's got to have the will to fight on. If he just left her and she was just saying, I'm done, that's it. She'd be done in an hour. But because of who she is, because she is a fighter, she's going to keep going and she's going to keep surviving. She can't keep moving, but she can stay alive. And that's, part of the gut check thing.
Midnighter having the debate with Dick Grayson. Well, not really debate because Dick just punched him. But the debate with Dick Grayson over Spiral and what's going to happen to the baby, I thought was really fantastic. Yeah. That part was just awesome. It just continues on because Midnighter, his way of dealing with situations is to fight. In situations where he can't fight his way out, he doesn't quite know what to do. I loved how that is unfolding in his desert dialogue. We should fight. We fight and I'll win. Take the baby. We should. Because he does that for days. For days, he's trying to find a way to fight his way out of this, and there is no fight here. No fight is going to help them get out of this desert. It would expend energy. Actually, everything that Midnighter said early on, this is a battle having to do with energy. Dick Grayson actually, I think, listened to part of that and is just pressing on, conserving energy. He's not debating. Because even that debate, building yourself up to that debate, is going to expend energy. He's just quiet. He keeps moving on. And he's just realizing, what do you have? Midnighter's asking, what do you have? And Dick Grayson's like, I have her. His intrinsic need to keep this baby safe. You saw it in the beginning when the mother was dying. and he was doing everything he can in desperation to try and keep her alive. I love how that pays off here, where we see her, he feels this responsibility, not just because it's a baby, because he was there helping deliver the baby. He saw the mother die, was trying to keep the mother alive, felt failure there. He's not going to fail this baby. And I just loved that whole drive, leading to this beautiful day 8 sequence where he's still trying to continue on, almost collapses, and the baby wakes him, and he finds some strength out of nowhere to just continue on a little bit more. I'm here, I'm still here. Wow. Really, really cool to see just Dick Grayson kind of press on like this. They are doing an awesome job of putting Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson should be a top-tier DC character, always. Always should be. He's one of the most renowned names in and out of comics. Most people know who the first Robin was. I mean, that's, it's not quite up there with Bruce Wayne as Batman, but it's close. It's not quite up there with Peter Parker as Spider-Man, but it's close. These are big characters. He's almost in that category of Clark Kent as Superman and Wonder Woman, they're being well known by general people. Robin is a well-known character, and Dick Grayson is just that guy. And this writing of him just makes me grin from ear to ear.
Yeah. And I loved, because I agree with you about day 8, but day 9 was also another one of those really cool where they keep the panels really nice and long, and each one he's going through, and he's telling the baby a story to keep the baby calm, but it's also to keep him going. If he just walked drudging in silence, that would be it. He'd fall and drop. But because he's telling the story of Batman and Robin, because he's telling about this dream where he saves Batman and just all that, everything that happened, that keeps him going. That's another one of those mental things that, you got to have, that just the mindset to keep pushing on. That mindset to keep saying, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep fighting, and I'm going to keep living. And it was just these were great panels just showing him drudging on and just going miserably, being miserable, and this is just a terrible experience to the point where he keeps going, and then finally again he has that moment, day 10, where he drops again, but this time he's getting support. This time he's getting help from somebody else. And I loved just how that final pan played out, to where we get those couple really long panels that were heavy yellow saturation, and it slowly starts getting more orange, and we get that great red background where he's finally on the ground. And he finally goes down, and he's like, and he's down for the count. And you can see that he ain't getting up from this one, or it's going to be a struggle because the baby's still going, but he's down. And I just loved how that played out and how everything went through to the rescue.
The ending sequence with the fact that Dick Grayson didn't give up the heart, didn't give it to Spiral. That was, I thought, just a great payoff at the end. Dick's morality in all this, and how he skirts that line of, I'm staying undercover, I'm doing what I can to find out what Spiral's really up to and protect, masks and things like that, but also not compromising myself. It's such an interesting, intricate balance of what he's doing in this, that I found that part really engaging in this series. And seeing that ending sequence play out, how it did, and the baby crushing the phone, and I was like, yes! I kept wondering, is it baby Kryptonian, just as super strength? What's going on? I wanted to know more. I like that there's certain things we just don't know more about.
And who knows if we'll ever find out about that kid.
Right.
Or we'll find out who he is, she is, or he is, and just everything with that. And I agree with you, the fact that he, Spiral didn't get the baby. And I agree with what Midnight was saying. What do you think they're going to do? They were going to dissect this kid and do all sorts of, just horrible things to the child. And, Grayson knew that. He knew that, and he found his way to make sure the baby was safe. Throughout all this, Dick Grayson is still a double agent. He's not one of them. He is still part of the Bat, and he's going to protect the masks, but he's also going to protect the innocent along the way. And I love seeing the fact that he did that, and I love the fact that we get this baby maybe with superhuman strength, or maybe something else going on with the kid. So it's, the spy stuff that they're laying out with this story has really been some cool stuff. And like you, Grayson's one of my top reads. It's one of those I jump on immediately.
Yeah, yeah. I never stockpile Grayson. I can't wait to read the book. It's a guaranteed multiple read book, just because it's a lot of fun. And they're in-depth stories. I love being dropped into the action. I'm glad we both did the double take in the beginning, kind of like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I like that, though. I like that they're not afraid to play with pacing and timing and where they drop you into a story and why, and really just keeping the action moving. It felt very cinematic. I didn't accidentally say film at the beginning. I meant to say film because it felt very cinematic in what it was doing. Because I mentioned James Bond in the beginning. It felt very James Bond. It was great to kind of just be dropped into the action. And what's Bond doing now? Well, it's what's Grayson doing now. What's more interesting, though, is it's Dick Grayson playing James Bond, not Dick Grayson being James Bond. There's a huge distinction between the two. It's far more interesting to see Dick Grayson in these situations, Dick Grayson trying to deal with this world that morally often goes heavily against who he is. That, as a reader, is where I connect with him. Great stuff. Jim, there's been some announcements this week, and through our conversation, I realized you didn't know about this. 13 comic series are ending in March. Now, a lot of that Convergence event starts in April, so we know that that's going to be taking over the line anyway. So I'm assuming a lot of these are going to be replaced by new number ones. I'm hoping some of these come back. But here's the ones that are concluding in March. Aquaman and the Others, Infinity Man and the Forever People, Clarion, Secret Origins, Star-Spangled War Stories, Trinity of Sin, World's Finest, Arkham Manor, Batwoman, Green Lantern Corps, Green Lantern New Guardians, Red Lanterns, Swamp Thing. Limited series like New 52 Futures End, Batman Eternal, and the Multiversity are all scheduled to reach their conclusion during that month as well. So it's a big month for the ending of certain titles. The whole Green Lantern line, though, is going to be, with the exception of Sinestro and Green Lantern, are being canceled. Now, I'm assuming we're going to get more Green Lantern books, coming out of that. But Batwoman is one I'm worried about on that list. And World's Finest, because I've really enjoyed that title. I'm thinking Arkham Manor's ending because of story reasons.
Probably. That's probably a story reasons ending. Clarion's the one I'm wondering about because that's just started and it's just ending. That's another one I think maybe going away because it's so young.
I think it's one of those probably just very low launch numbers, I guess.
Right. I'm thinking that. But Batwoman I'm worried about because I love Batwoman. This has been just an absolute wonderful story going on. And I was one of those people who was initially upset when they weren't doing the marriage, and because I really did want to see them get married, her and Maggie get married, because I thought that'd be just a great, that would be a really cool of a Gotham vigilante married to a Gotham, police lieutenant, and just the whole dealings with the vigilante and the cop and just everything they did. How was your day, honey? Well, my day was tough. How was your day? Well, and it just, I thought they could have done so much with a marriage and a relationship, but they don't want married heroes. And so they ended it, but they're keeping going with the coolness of Batwoman, and we're getting, some neat stories coming out of this. So I'm very worried that we're going to lose Batwoman because I like this.
Yeah, I am too. Because the character to me is one that I'm afraid, if she's gone, she's gone. I mean, there's not going to be anything they're going to do with the character. And she's, going back to 52, she's one of those characters that spun out of that. And I think it's just been a welcome addition to the DC universe. So I'm very worried about that character. Swamp Thing's another worry of mine because, it's a very unique character. And a book that I've really grown to adore through the multiple creative changes it's gone through. It's been consistently great.
Yeah, Swamp's another one. That could be not good thing. And I that's another one I'll miss. If it goes away, I will be bummed on that one.
Especially with how long it's been around. The Green Books I'm not as worried about because I'm assuming we're going to get some new Green Books.
They can't get rid of just all those titles because Green Lantern Corps, Guardians, and Red Lanterns are three outstanding books. I can't imagine they're doing bad. I think this is all about this whole kind of relaunching thing, and maybe we'll get a green color universe or something. I don't know. The color cores, or maybe they'll do some merging and combinations and whatnot. So I can't imagine they're getting rid of those titles because, we're going to get, everyone's going to eventually learn that Kyle's still around if they haven't learned already. So that's going to be something, and that could be a way to bring him into a unified book and not have him need to be in Greenland, New Guardian. So they could very easily do some merging of titles, but I can't imagine that there's only going to be Sinestro and Green Lantern out there.
So let's talk Batwoman number 36, which you and I planned to do before we knew that these books were being canceled. So, which I do think a lot of it's story-driven, some of it's sales-driven. So we're going to have to see what's going on. But Batwoman number 36, written by Mark Andreyko, pencils by George Giannetti, and apologies for any name butchery there. Carl Story on ink, Sky Major colorist, Todd Klein letterer, Raphael Albuquerque on the cover, Dave Wielgos, associate editor, Rachel Gluckstern editor, Mark Doyle group editor, The Demon, created by Jack Kirby. I've enjoyed this Batwoman vampire storyline that's been going on in the book. This is somebody who lost, and feeling that she was doing the right thing, lost the love of her life, with Maggie Sawyer, made the decision to walk away, and because of that now is, having this relationship with this vampire. It's kind of an escape. And it's a very bad person for her. She doesn't realize quite what she's going through. Although this issue, it could be argued, we're starting to get our wake-up call.
Yeah, I think she's starting to realize, hey, something's not right here. Mm-hmm. There's something I'm not just dating a very possessive person. There's something more to her. And, it's one of those things where she's not, part of it is the vampire mysticism blocking it. Part of it is her own personal grief, and she's looking for an escape. She's looking for just a way to get over her heartbreak. So she's finds the first person she can, and it's very common, very normal for people to deal with it, but this is Gotham, so you're gonna latch onto the wrong person. And I also think I really like the fact that she's going from this heartbreak and she's got this very normal human reaction to what she's going through, but because this is Gotham, because this is the comic book universe, it takes a massively wickedly nasty spin, and things are going to go horribly wrong here.
Yeah, exactly. And seeing her with this kind of, the part where she's even almost hissing at that one point, you see her violence increasing when she's out there, but she doesn't quite realize where she is and what's happening to her. The blacking out part, I think, is fantastic. Yeah. She's got two things going on with her. I'm going to be very curious to see where that story ends for her, because I liked the 5 year later issue with her, because a lot of this started to come to fruition. And I'm going to be very curious. I'm hoping this is not leading to the demise of Batwoman.
I'm thinking it's not going to. I think that 5 year was a what if could happen, and I don't think that's what's going to go that route. I'm hoping that this cancellation doesn't end it, but this has me nervous because I didn't know about the announced cancellation. So now I'm like, wait a minute, But just this opening bit here with these kids, he's on the billboard spray painting the, hey, go to prom with me. And Batwoman shows up. Vandalism is a crime punishable by death. And just the lashing out at him, and even the way they did the lettering and just the paneling, this is not the normal Batwoman voice. This is not the normal Batwoman. She's lashing out, punishable by death, vandalism. Outstanding.
In the meantime, that whole cult thing's going on in the background. I liked that both things were going on. I'm a fan of that. You keep us going with our main hero, but at the same time introduce some things to us. Yeah, and I love the fact that it is jumping between the cult scenes and Batwoman and the cult, and it just how it's gone every panel, boom, 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 and it just flip-flopping between the stories, and the fact that she's getting ready to kill these kids. In the one, she's about to bite the one guy. He's like, don't hurt me. It'll only hurt for an instant. And she's getting ready to bite down on him, even though she doesn't have fangs yet, but this is the instinct that's starting to kick in. And just as that's going on, his buddy throws the can, and she's like, "How dare you!" And you see, she's gonna kill these guys. But the police show up
because the one guy from the occult called the police. And it's the sirens going by her that snaps her out of it. So I thought that for me was a really cool moment of her lost in the moment, getting brought back out, and then going back into bat mode. And it was like, I was like, man, this is neat. I want to see her fight through this. I want to see her become human, but part of me is wondering how cool would it be to have a bat who's a bat? How neat would it be that there's a vampire, in the bat family?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to be curious to see where this story goes. The sequence with Maggie and Batwoman, I just thought was phenomenal because it read so real. We've all been there. Those relationships that don't end well, well, they don't end well. You have those awkward moments where you're trying to be nice and kind and not like but there's just that cold, awkward, whatever you want to call it. That read so real there. I just really appreciated the writing of that sequence.
Well, and even the fact that she tries to have that private moment where she asks about her daughter, like, not here. And I like the fact that, Maggie is like, no, this is business now. And those were some really cool moments. And even to the point where, well, that was awful. Just the look on Batwoman's face and that inner dialogue of just, again, I really am digging just how this character is being written. I was sad to see the wedding didn't happen. I was sad to see the breakup, but the fact that they're handling it and they're addressing it and they're dealing with it in this manner is telling us a really good story. Now, you can always say what might have been, what would have been, what if, would those have been cooler stories? I don't know. I'd like to think that marriage would have been cooler, but I'm getting some really good stuff here, so it's kind of hard to argue that point now.
Right. Jason Blood being at Gotham City Hospital. I was glad to see that character brought back in. I had no idea where it was going to go, but when he was grabbed by the arm and you got to see the connection to the demon and how he was seeing things that nobody else would, that part was really great.
Yeah, I'm curious about that because Blood's been in this universe, and Blood's been, in the DC universe. And, when did this separation, when did all this stuff happen that he's lost who he was in the past?
I don't know.
That's the thing that when I first read this, I was like, wait, what? Wait, Jason's Blood been in this universe. He knows, he's been around these people. And, we've seen him in present day, and we've seen the demon in present day. So what happened here? That was the big question in my head. What happened? And the fact that they flashed the Demon Knights, they flashed them there. So I gotta.
Well, the Demon Knights was his past,
right?
Where did we see him present day?
We saw him present day. I could have swore we saw him in Justice League Dark.
Oh, was he in Justice League Dark?
Him and the Demon were in Justice League Dark.
Okay.
I'm 90% certain. I know the 5 year later, the Demon's in Justice League Dark.
Right.
But I could have swore they were in Justice League Dark before that.
Huh. I don't remember. It's a really good question. I'm looking right now. Hang on.
Okay.
No, I'm not seeing him there. Andrew Bennett, the Vampire, Black Orchid, Dr. Mist, Frankenstein, Constantine, Deadman, Xanadu, Mind Warp, Nightmare Nurse, Pandora, Phantom Stranger.
Oh, okay.
Amethyst, Shade the Changing Man, Swamp Thing, Timothy Hunter, Zatanna, Zoriel were in there, but not the Demon. But the 5 year later, let's see, wait. I don't think so.
Yeah, the 5 year later, the Demon's in it.
Agreed.
But, okay. I was always thinking Blood's been in there.
I'm not saying we haven't. I've read so many books.
I know.
I was trying to remember if we've seen the Demon present day, and I don't remember that. Maybe we've seen the Demon. I don't remember we've seen Jason Blood, so I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that's...
I want to see this story that you're talking about. Like, what you were saying, I was like nodding, going, because what you're really looking for is I want to see what happened to him. I don't know what happened to him, and I want to see it too.
Yeah, because on this one panel that shows the past, you got the whole 9 yards there. And it's a great, just a quick panoramic of the story of the Demon Knights, of Morgan Le Fay, of him and the Demon interconnected, and the Demon in present, and just, so this Jason Blood doesn't remember or has been separated or something happened. And I guess I'm hoping we'll see it in this story, and we'll actually see what happened, and we'll learn where they've been and, whatnot.
Now, back at the Kane penthouse, when we start seeing the relationship there, it's really interesting how Kate, who I usually think of as this very strong person, in this case is being overwhelmed by the vampire. You can actually see her discomfort in a way that's very, very different than her relationship with Maggie, where it was very much two-sided, what they would do to each other. In this case, the way everything from the way she dresses to, everything else when you're going out there, she's very much carted around like she's almost a doll. Don't look so scared. If people want to talk, let them.
Yeah, she's not her normal self for some reason. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of neat to see, even like that one scene when she's when she goes out in public and she looks in the mirror, and it's, wait a minute, what's going on here? I like that. And then running into the therapist, while she's on the road there, and just, her dealing with the fact that, with this relationship, because she's never had an issue with the relationship before, but there's something about her. There's something about this that just, she's starting to feel it and think, I'm reading that she's taken it that she knows something's wrong here.
And the therapist is catching on.
Yeah.
To her uneasiness. I think before Kate is, because Kate's not quite there yet.
Yeah.
Kate's uneasy, but is it the newness of a relationship? What is it? I don't think she's put the nail on the head yet here, but the therapist caught on right away because he can look at it objectively from the outside. It was great to see her sister come back in again. I absolutely love that character. I'm glad that they've evolved the character. They didn't just leave her one thing. I've loved her introduction. It's great to see more from her in this story. I'm anxious to see if she goes where she did in the 5 year later.
I'm assuming she's kind of better, but it hasn't been that long that she's been away. So is she completely clean? Is she completely clear? Where's the dad? Because the dad went to help her, and she came back to Gotham by herself. So if she left with his blessing, he would have been right next to her. So that's another question. I'm like, where is the dad? What's going on there?
And did what happened to him lead to her coming back? I don't know.
Yeah. Or did she, have a relapse? Or is she a good guy again? Or is she that still trying to figure it out? Because she was one of those characters that had a lot of crazy stuff happen to her. And a lot of times, you don't want to justify killing innocents. You don't want to justify killing anybody. But if somebody has had a massively traumatic experiences happen to them, can you completely blame them the fact that their sense of reality has been warped? Her sense of reality got altered and warped, and things got freaky for her. So you kind of see that going through and happening. I don't know. I'm hoping she's here to help save her sister, and I'm hoping that's what's going to happen here. That the craziness of her is going to fight off the craziness of being around the vampire, because there's definitely crazy stuff happening with Kate and her vampire, girlfriend there. Because I like the fact that she's seeing the bite mark, she's having the blood flashes.
Yeah.
Where she's covered in blood. Like, what was that? Oh, what? And there's a lot of, I keep saying craziness, but there is a lot of just what's going on here. How much of this is real? How much of this is imaginary? How much of this is vampire mumbo jumbo, flashing the brain? There's, when you add the magic, when you add the occult side, when you add the creepy factor, a lot of different stuff can play out. And I like this, how it's coming to head within Batwoman. I think this is a good character to do this with.
It is, because it's a different corner of the Bat universe, and it distinguishes, it sets it aside. And putting the demon in here I thought was a great use. It's a character that you and I were big fans of in Demon Knights. I really liked that series a lot. I like that this feels like a sequel to that, a continuation of that, where that character's been since then. So that's very welcome to me. And I want to know, what's the mystery? He seems to recognize the demon right away, and the demon obviously recognizes him. So I want to know what happened to the two of them and how it plays into Batwoman. I think what a really great issue of a book that's really important to me, which is why I wanted to talk about it. And you mentioned this one as being one on the list that when we talk about the Bat books, you wanted to make sure we got to, and I totally get why, because it's a great book.
And I like the fact that they both have, both the demon and Jason, when they see each other, they both say you, but they both have the question mark exclamation point. So they both have that question and shock. So I'm thinking the demon's got some gaps in the memory as well. I don't think the demon's 100%. So that same type of flashback that Jason had, I think the demon started having those flashbacks, and that's why the demon is there seeking answers. I think the demon's got some mystery and some unknown in his life as well, and I think that's going to be part of the, those two getting together. And are we going to see once again a merged unit? Is it going to be the same type of demon? Are the rules different this time?
Well, and the demon doesn't want to be attached to blood, never has.
Yeah.
That's always been an inconvenience to the demon. So it'd be curious to see if they do wind up being connected again, what would lead to that. It's a great issue. A great way to set off a story. Issue 37 just came out, and you and I didn't have a chance to read it. Second we jump off this podcast, that's going to be one of the first books I read.
Yeah.
Just because I'm very excited to read that particular book.
Our next discussion will be on Detective Comics number 37. The Storytellers are Francis Manapul with Brian Buccellato, with letterer Jared K. Fletcher, cover by Francis Manapul, Tim Sale and Darwin Cook on the variant covers, Dave Wilgaus, Wielgoszi is the assistant editor, Rachel Gluckstern is the editor, Mark Doyle is group editor, and of course, Batman is created by Bob Kane.
I love this book. This creative team has been just a very welcome addition to Detective Comics. We had a couple fill-in issues there, and I was really excited to see them, which I enjoyed, but I was excited to see this team come back. I love the Storytellers title, because it's these two on The Flash when they were working together were phenomenal. To see them on this book and just delivering that kind of art and storytelling marriage, I thought was great. You knew this was something special when you turn the first page and you've got the A framing. Yeah. I know who you really are, with the whole anarchy thing. I just thought that was really just a great way to introduce this as this Wayne Tower thing starts to kick in right in the beginning part of this issue. They did a lot in this issue, which I really enjoyed. You set up anarchy as this interesting enigma, but then you jump to what we really need. We want some Batman action. How do you get that? Let's remind us again what Mad Hatter's like in the New 52. And I thought this was just a great way to show the creepiness that is Mad Hatter. Beautiful art. I love their take on the drawing of Batman. But Mad Hatter, just the psychosis of, you killed your Alice. And it looks like Mad Hatter has killed multiple Alices along the way. The question being, how many are out there? This is one hiding spot for Alice's. How many more are there out there? How many has he done this to? Because I was taking those skulls when they were popping up. That isn't one cache of them. There's multiple all over the place of him trying to find yet another Alice to replace his concept of Alice, this love that he lost, so to speak, or lost because of the creepiness that is him.
Yeah, I, again, completely agree with what you said with the anarchy opening and just the terror of who and what is anarchy in this universe. I'm really digging, just the way they're painting him and the way they're showing him, and jump right from that to Batman with the Crazy Hatter. Mad Hatter he's a staple in the Bat universe, and he's crazy as a loon. And I love the fact that him and his goons he's dealing with, he's like, if you don't want me to gut you like a fish, you tell me where she is. Very blunt, very plain. You know exactly where he is with the homeless guy that's there. Just a simple guy. He's like, hey, I don't know. I swear. Lies. This is your last chance. Hand her over, and I promise you mercy. Either way, no skin off my back. I was like, dang. I love this. Again, great usage of just opening and then bam, right into the bat, opening up a can. I was like, dang, this is awesome. This was a great way to deal with this. And you got this poor homeless guy who's doing nothing but just trying to keep warm. And you got, Tweedledee and Tweedledum tossing stuff around. You're just like, oh, man, this is Gotham right here. This is what it's like to live in Gotham.
I love the use of those grapples. When Batman comes swinging down, he's got the two grapples in his hand. You're not sure what he's doing with those yet, but the next page, you see him throw those on the two big muscle, and you hear the click, and them pulled up by the Batwing. I thought that was really just a great use of. There's constant motion with planning and skill with Batman. We're going from A to B to C. I'm planning on taking care of every contingency, so now I have the upper hand, and that intimidation's in place. Really just a terrific sequence of events, and visually was very stunning.
It's one of those reasons I agree with you about. I love the title of storytellers. And that was why I made sure I definitely said it when I was doing the creative team, because this right here is a beautiful blending of artwork and the written story. They are a team, a unit. They are the storytellers. It's not, this is the writer, this is the artist. They're working together, and you could see it on stuff like this. One page, he's coming in and they're just there. You don't know what he's going to use them for. Next page, he does a super kick. You kind of have the thunk of the two, grapplings hitting. Yeah, I'm assuming that is Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Okay. Hits the Dums, and then click and zoom. And I was like, man, that is awesome. A great usage of the story being told. You get the flow through, you get the motion, you get the dynamics of this sequence. And I loved how when you're seeing them get zipped back, we've got this downward perspective. And you're looking up, and that is a really cool, wicked-looking Batman. You're seeing it from Jervis's point of view. He doesn't look human right there. He doesn't look like a guy in a costume. He looks supernatural right there. I'm like, man, this is awesome.
Why the Dums and why not the Ds?
Well, I thought that's their names, Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
Right, but you said he took the Dums out. They're not both Dums. One's a D, one's a D, and one's a Dum.
One's a Dum, one's a D. Okay, yeah.
I thought you knew something I didn't know.
No, I'm just
being a pest.
I just said it.
I don't know. He took out the Dums. I'm like, wait, but one's a D.
Okay. Took out the D and the Dum.
I'm just being a pest. I couldn't
really?
agree. Yeah. Odd, right? Yeah. I'm trying to expand my horizons a bit. Taking the joking out of everything you said is 100% correct. And I love, just this idea of them as storytellers. I'm loving Batman right now, the main Batman title and Endgame that's going on, which we'll talk about next episode. I also am loving Batman and Robin. You and I have been big advocates for how that is kind of the sleeper hit. The one, it's a creative team that's dynamic and they're hitting it out of the park and it's always amazing. But, with the Scott Snyder book getting all of the notice and attention, a lot of times the Batman and Robin title isn't the one that, we consider month after month, one of the top tier books. You don't hear about it as much. And you really should. Detective Comics has entered into that category, and what I love about it is you've got a stellar creative team on Batman and Robin. I mean, I would be angry if they moved Peter Tomasi from that book. Same thing going on Batman. Detective Comics now has a stellar creative team that's distinctive.
Yeah.
All three books are distinctive, yet they feel part of the same universe. This doesn't feel like a very different Batman than the other two books, but yet the title has its own flair and unique storytelling that makes it very fun to read and sets itself apart. I don't feel like I'm getting the same thing. It's really well done because of that, and I really am glad we're having an opportunity to talk about this team because especially after coming off of two fill-in issues that were really good, it was great to see this team back because it's just taken to another level when they're on this book.
Oh God, yeah, and it's funny because when you're talking about the three titles, I can't pick one. I can't pick a favorite Bat title.
Yeah,
flat out, it's whatever one I'm reading is my favorite because each one gives me some really cool Bat moments. They give me some cool Alfred moments. They give me some cool Gotham moments. Each of these creative teams understand the importance of the Bat, the importance of his dynamic, of his family, of everything that's playing out there. Even Batman and Robin, which is right now currently on another part of the universe, you still get the feeling of the Bat family because they're they're flying in to save the day. They're going in for support. They're giving the Batman the backup that he needs, even though he's not asking for it. It still has those same distinctive feelings. I know this Bruce, and that Bruce are all the same person. You get that same type of feeling, that same type of vibe, and there's some really cool stuff going on here that I'm very happy. I'm very Bat happy right now.
When Batman's in the Batcave and Alfred's telling him he needs some Bruce time, the relationship between the two of them is so well written in comics right now. To have this team kind of take it again, it's fine, we can do this, but can we not call it Bruce time? I just said, what a great sequence of events. Those moments are really important in comics. It's a nice break. It reminds us these are real people. And I think that attachment's really important in a monthly series when you're constantly coming back. You want to feel something endearing about these characters in this dark world. I loved seeing the manor lit up.
Yeah.
I mean, what a beautiful thing, especially knowing what we know is happening to Batman's world right now. It's nice to see that moment before.
Yeah, again, this was some cool moments because for me, you get the fact that he is focused on finding who these missing children are, who these skulls are, that the gruesome skulls that they unearth. He's using the 3D recognition. He's doing a Batman thing. But as you said, he has that where Alfred is there for him. Alfred's like, hey, you need the Bruce time. And they're out and we see the thing. And I love the fact that Titus is there, that he takes, Damien's dog, because that is Bruce's connection to his son. And the fact that they still haven't let that go, they're still keeping the dog around. All of the Bat books still have Titus being a main character in the support unit. And, part of that thing that's helping Bruce get through and deal with and recover his son is the fact that his dog is right there throughout all of this. And he's one of those characters. I hope they don't kill him off. I hope they don't go for a shock and awe moment and kill off Titus because I love that dog.
Yeah, absolutely. Bullock's use in this was really great because it's one of the things that I think has been interesting in the Batman universe that Bullock is one of those guys that he can be a good cop who's anti-vigilantes and anti-Batman, but yet at the times he's torn between, but look what Batman's doing, look what he's bringing to the table, this part's a positive. I like that he skirts that line. That's interesting to me. And I always want to see that keep continuing with that character. When he's working with his partner, that's an important part of books dealing with the Batman universe. You need to show us the police force. Show us the police force, show us the partners, show us what their relationships are like, make us care about them. Because when they have interactions with Batman, you feel very torn. Because you want to cheer for them, but yet you want to cheer for Batman. You want them to get along, but they're like friends that you want to learn how to high five each other, but know that they can't. I mean, it's really great stuff when you do these sequences. And you only get there by having them investigating things that are of interest to you through the story. I thought that was a really well done bit because you saw the distinction between the personality of Bullock and his partner. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things with I hate when I see in a book, and I don't see this in the Bat titles, and I'm always very happy about that. But whenever I see a cop being written as the incompetent, bungling cop,
yes,
that always angers me and always annoys me because the cops do one thing, the vigilantes do another thing. It's each one has their strength, each one has what they do and how they handle it, and the use of Detective Bullock, the use of Gotham PD in general in the back books have been really great thing to show it that these guys, you need to have a certain level of toughness. You need to have a certain level of just that general craziness, that, you kind of need when you're on the force, but you need it to an nth level because you're in Gotham. Because the Gotham has, beyond just the normal street crime, beyond the normal organized crime, there is just that something extra special in the nastiness that Gotham criminals have. So your cops have to have that extra level of nastiness. And Bullock has that. And there's times when I want him, if I ever, if anything ever happens to me, he's the guy I want to get the collar on the case because he's got that tenacity that he's going to see through it. But then there's times where I just want to smack him, say, dumbass, what are you doing here, Bullock? Come on. With the scene where he pulls the gun on the Bat. Yeah, on one hand, he's the anti-vigilante. I kind of understand it. But on the other hand, that's just the wrong time to do it. You're trying to figure out why this timer is going on. You got a timer and it's, a countdown in Gotham. Countdowns are never a good thing in Gotham especially anything involving the Waynes, involving something that may have the Bat associated with it. You don't want to delay anything. You don't want to, stop anything. If you see a countdown, start clearing the tower. Start getting people away because something bad's about to happen.
I'm still stuck on the fact that if something bad happens to you, I get to meet Harvey Bullock.
Oh, okay. Maybe I shouldn't wish that one.
Wow, it sounded good.
We now have a prime suspect.
It's got to make it really good. I like the use of Lucius Fox in that sequence too. Obviously with it being Wayne Tower, that was the area. He shows up about a bomb being there, and Bullock's ready to shoot him and take him down. But that's not enough in that moment because Batman's like realizing, wait, we've got a matter of, seconds. We've got to get everyone out of this place right now. There's two choices on how to handle this. And he doesn't even have time to convey to Bullock what those are because it's like, if I explain this to you, you're not going to have enough time to get these people out of here. Get them out of here. I think what's going to end up happening is option 2 is where Batman was heading towards.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what option 2 ends up being and how it's going to take care of everything. But what a great cliffhanger with that explosion, the sense of timing. I like that it wasn't clean. Batman's option 1 didn't work, so we have to go to option 2. What is that going to be, and how's that going to work out in this? I can't wait to see what happens.
Well, the fact that they are trapped in the building now.
Yes.
And I loved how the explosion went, so it forms the anarchy symbol.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm reading it that's forming some type of energy / fire electrical type of barrier that are going to keep people in even more. It kind of, to me, it looks like they kind of put up some type of force screen. Because you go to the final panel where you see the anarchy, you see the fire, but you go right to the panel before that, where the countdown's kind of happening. The people are locked in and they can't get out. The building's not leveled. So did anarchy lock the doors to keep everyone from running out into the flames, or did he lock the doors to keep them in so that he blows up? It's where exactly is anarchy's motivation? Because this doesn't look like a blow up the building explosion. I
don't know. Create fear and awe to wake people up to his symbol.
Create chaos and anarchy.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I can't. I'm glued to the story. I want to see what's going to happen. I don't. I have a lot of options there, and I don't know which they are.
No, you only have 2.
Hey, there's always option C.
Yeah.
No, I can't wait to see what happens in this story. It's a gripping Batman title. To me, Detective Comics should be about the mystery. This story is so totally about building up an interesting mystery involving anarchy. He's one of those characters that when he's brought in and done right, he's a terrific character. Sometimes he is, other times he's brought in and it's kind of lackluster. He's kind of diminished. This is a great handling of the character because he feels like a top-tier character that has a value in being interesting and unique from some of the contemporary characters that are like him, such as the Joker and Two-Face and whatnot.
Yeah. He's a character that I don't have a lengthy history with. I've read a couple of the stories with him, and he's always somebody I was kind of fascinated with, the look of him was kind of a bit weird for me. So I like this new look that he's going with instead of like the really tall head. And I was like, okay, yeah, he's disguising the fact that he's a little kid and he's smaller. So I kind of was okay with that. But this definitely, to me, it seems like this is who he is. He's got the mask on, but it's still there. There's more of a toughness to this level of anarchy, but he still has that same intellect level that anarchy had before. So I'm looking forward to seeing this one in action.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
That we take a few minutes to read this week's Batman and Robin, and then we come back and talk?
Sure.
Because this is it. This is where we find out.
Ooh, okay.
So I think we should read this.
That sounds good to me.
All right. Our next chat, actually our final chat this episode, will be Batman and Robin 37. Robin Rises, Black Hole Sun. Peter J. Tomasi's the writer, Patrick Gleason on pencils, Mick Gray inks, John Callitz colors, Carlos M. Mangual on letters, Gleason, Gray, and Callitz on the cover, Darwin Cook variant cover, Dave Wheelglows, I want to find out how to pronounce his name, associate editor, Rachel Gluckstern editor, Mark Doyle group editor, and Batman created by Bob Kane. Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I literally was like, I've been sick this whole week. I've had a flu bug, so apologies if I'm nasally or, sound a little off on this episode, but that's what's driving that. I was going to save this book for next week, but I didn't want to. So literally we just took a break and read it to come back and have a chat about it, because I knew this was the one where we'd find out what happened and how. More importantly, how. Because I knew where this was going. I just wanted to see it. I wanted to see the execution and how it came about. What a satisfying issue. This is why this is one of the best creative teams in comics right now. This book just delivers on an emotional level. So great. Right from that opening page of Darkseid on Apocalypse. I mean, what a great way to start off the issue.
Yeah, and it's funny because when Damian first died, I was like, I wanted him back no matter what. And then I got so used to his death, and I got so used to how they were using it. I was like, I kind of like the fact that he's dead. He's a great character, but and I always said, I don't know if I want to bring it back. If they're going to bring it back, they got to make it epic. They made it epic. This is an awesome story. Just everything that we've seen up until this point, going with Bruce, just making a decision. I got to go to Apocalypse. I got to do just everything he's doing to go and get his son back. From everything we saw with him doing the Frankenstein type of mindset where he's going to bring back, or is it animated corpse? He wanted his son back. You saw him working through the grief, and then when this opportunity of the body being stolen and him fighting to get the body back. And then the body's on Apocalypse, and it's just Justice League's like, no, we can't send you. Doesn't matter. He's going to do his own thing. He's going there no matter what, even if it's a one-way trip. I love just that determination and just that whole, he's Batman, and the Hellbat suit, and just everything that upper level of technology that Batman pulls out all stops. That, the suit that is going to probably kill him in wearing it, and that's why he's never worn it before. Well, guess what? This is that time where you take that chance. Yes. This right here is where you put everything on the table. You lay all your cards down the line to do that. And I love just that magnitude that Bruce was facing, that I have to do this to save my son. And the rest of the Bat family jumping in saying, hey, this is, Bruce and Damian. We got to do this. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We're going to Apocalypse. And everyone coming together just for this fight was just, I was hoorahing the whole time. And wonderful story, beautiful artwork. Oh my God, I'm very excited, very thrilled.
I love that it wasn't about beating Darkseid.
No.
It was about surviving and leaving with Damian's body. And his whole plan of attack involves that. It's not about beating all of Darkseid's minions. It's not about taking out Calabac and being able to beat him. None of that was what this was about. The suit, the main purpose of it was, what can I do to be able to accomplish an extraction? This is really about an extraction. And he went in with a great plan that only Batman can. The great part about this story is, you're right, being epic. You needed to see the multiple stages of grief. You needed to see him go to the darkest possible places and come back from that, and then see another opportunity put before his eyes. And you see, this is not just any dad. This is Batman as a dad. And his son is there. And this is him saying, this is not going to stand. They're not going to do this to my son's body. If there's any remote possibility I can bring my son back alive, that is what's going to happen, because I'm Batman and I'm going to make that happen. This is just epic Batman. It's what you want to see from Batman. Not a wasted moment in this. The whole plan with using the mother box to make Calabac disappear to buy time, that's all it's about. This is a very calculated, very well-timed plan. It's not about winning. Again, that part was really critical in this. I don't want to see Batman being able to beat down Darkseid. Not going to happen. But to see Batman doing this, woof. And I know in the previous universe we've seen Batman go toe-to-toe as long as he's had the right kind of equipment. You see, this suit is the right kind of equipment to survive Darkseid. You want a Darkseid here? This is a destroyer of worlds. You want Darkseid here to have that kind of power and to see that? Batman is not about beating him here. This suit is about surviving. Huge distinction, and I love the difference.
And the fact that, Bruce has just the strategery to use Darkseid against himself. Mm-hmm. And it's not just even surviving the fight, because I agree with you. That's what the Hellbat suit was designed for. It was designed for an extraction and for him to survive in an environment that he normally wouldn't be able to. But just the fact that he had the whereabouts, he knew what he was going to use the shard for as well.
Yes.
Which the shard, I thought the whole time was just a throwaway. No, it wasn't. Why? Because he's Batman. He knows I get that thing supercharged. I could use this to bring back my son. It wasn't just about extracting the body. It was about resurrecting Damian. And from day one, from that first moment, I know in my head, Bruce was thinking, hey, I could use that to bring Damian back. I could use that. And he knew going to Apocalypse, setting up, doing the damage that he was doing, he was drawing Darkseid out for a fight. Not to beat Darkseid, and not even to kind of like dance and escape. It was he needed Darkseid's Omega Beams to recharge that shard to the point where it could bring Damian back. Levels on levels and levels of strategy that I never once saw or even thought about. I knew the whole time that this, Bruce wasn't going for an invasion, he was going for an extraction. But the whole time I'm thinking it's to get the body out, not to get the body out and then resurrection. I was thinking Bruce would get the body out and that would open up the door. And I was actually thinking it was going to be a Lazarus Pit that brought Damian back. And the fact that Bruce is able to do this, kind of one of those things where he proves the worthiness to use the Lazarus Pit. And it was kind of I was thinking in my head like a Ra's al Ghul challenge to Bruce. Can you do this? Can you accomplish this? Are you worthy to allow this? Or that's where my whole head. I wasn't thinking at all that the extraction was going to be the thing that brings Damian back. So when that happened, I was like, oh my God, that is awesome. And then you realize, you stop for a second, you think, wait, oh my God, I'm an idiot. That was his plan all along. Batman is the greatest.
Yes. That's, to me, the key is when you can see how it all played out and go, oh, I get why he's done all of this now. But we didn't catch it at the time because he's Batman. He's one step ahead of us. I love that. I love riding along with Batman just as much as the next guy. And there's been multiple stories where I've had that opportunity, and it's rare. That's why they stand out. Particularly going back to some of Morrison's work where we got to ride along with Batman and kind of see what Batman was dealing with. But in those cases, too, what really worked, there comes a point in time in every great Batman story where Batman, you realize all along that Batman was 3 car lengths ahead of you. Maybe more.
It's the greatest chess match ever.
Yes.
Because he's always going to be those 10 to 20 moves ahead of you, and just he knows what he's doing. He's got that plan, and he's going to play it out, and he's going to and you're never going to see it coming. And I love the fact that even the people who know him the best, the people who love and understand and have trained with him, still didn't see it either. Even Alfred didn't completely know what Bruce was doing. None of the Jason, Tim, and Barbara and Cyborg didn't know exactly what Bruce's plan was. I think they were more on the lines that I was, that he was just going to get the body back, not get the body and resurrection. But I was just like, but even that, they're playing their part. Bruce knew they would come. Bruce knew they would do that. So he knew they would be there. And that was his escape route. When his mother box gets destroyed, that's no skin off his back, because he knew he had his backup. And he knew, and I love the fact that when Barbara's able to hotwire Cyborg and is able to open up the boom tube, Darkseid's like, oh, your companions are leaving him. And you're like, no, they're not. That was his plan all along. That was his escape route. He knew they were going to do that. He knew they would figure out a way to catch him and get up to him and then open the boom tube. I thought all that stuff, I was like, man, this is awesome.
Yes. That stuff was all absolutely fantastic. It was great to see how that all played out. I loved seeing the use of the Bat family in this, and Cyborg, and how the whole team had to work together in a race against time. Because if everything didn't play out in the right time frame, they're dead. I mean, there's no way about it. They were not going to survive this whole thing. That was the part where it really was interesting for me, was seeing that race against time. The Cyborg Batgirl interactions I thought were amazing. Yeah. Really good use of her, and the idea that she's got these tech skills, but this is way above her pay grade. And Cyborg calming her down and just kind of going, you can do this. I'm going to talk you through it. Because you're dealing with a person who's alive. So you're not dealing with a computer or another piece of technology, and you make a mistake, you can kill him. That part really was fantastic, I thought.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And it's funny because this Batgirl in this issue read very similar to the Batgirl we're seeing in her series.
Yes, I would agree. I would agree with you on that.
And that's something kind of weird for me to admit because, in the past issues, I never thought that. But it was, I think, because we just had that conversation where we just talked freshly about Batgirl. And then I read this. I was like, this feels like that Batgirl. I was very happy to see that. I was like, man, that's kind of cool. And especially, I always dig the fact, I especially dig when they came into that they're all dressed in Robin apparel, and it's it's Team Robin to bring back Damian. I love the fact that they did that. So add to it the fact that you got that. I don't want to say scared, but there was a little bit of trepidation in Barbara's face. It was like, what am I doing here? I'd love seeing that. But she, again, part of the thing about being a hero, part of the thing about being that person that is one step above everybody else is, yeah, you're afraid, but you're able to work through that fear. It's, the ability to overcome fear. That's courage. That is what Barbara is. She had that fear. She had that trepidation, but she's able to work through it. And she's got Cyborg there, so she's got the assistant saying, hey, I can talk you through this. Okay, and if Cyborg was telling you or me, if he was telling me, I can talk you through this, my first answer would have been, no, you can't, I'm an idiot. But Barbara knows. Barbara's got the confidence in Cyborg, and there's that level of, just hero. There's that level of courage, and you see it just in those couple quick panels, and especially the fact that they're able to get the boom tube, and the team is able to rally and get out of there. You got the one carrying Cyborg. Don't leave a man behind. You got Titus making it through, thank God, because I didn't want to lose the dog. But it was a great team dynamic throughout this series. This is a series that now I'm going to go through and reread again from beginning to end, or when the hardback trade comes out. This is one I'm going to order just because this is something I want to sit down and just have a nice, quiet, calm read through.
This is going to be one of the all-time special Batman runs, and it isn't appraised in the same category of Batman as it should be. And that's not diminishing Batman at all. We've said this multiple times. It's really just patting on the back just how good this series really is. And I hope the execs at DC realize how special this book is. Because when you see this whole sequence, I love the writer, editorial, whoever's involved in making the decisions of making this series connect so well into the DC universe in general. Characters, when they appear here, you're right about Batgirl. Read very much here like the Batgirl in the current book. That's important. While at the same time, you've got Darkseid building towards what's coming. We know there's a big Darkseid war coming. We know that's coming to this, Earth. And this is not ignoring that. This feels like a prelude to that war. Because he has that sequence, when they're getting away. They're getting away. Leave them be for now. We will see them all soon enough. No, their blood needs spilling, Father. And it's so totally like Darkseid's like, yeah, just keep back. I'm going to get them. They'll get theirs and all that. Batman and the whole crew escaping. But that is only the beginning of the stuff that we want to see. Because this and any other issue, that would be the conclusion. Hey, they got away. They got all that. Really, really good stuff.
Well, and I agree. And it was funny because you talk about just that would have been the conclusion. And even I was thinking, okay, that's, they got out. But you see Bruce, and I love the fact that he's scrambling to get the outfit off. And I'm thinking, of course, he's getting off because it's about to explode. But that wasn't the thing. He knew he had to get he had to get the shard in before it ran out of juice, before there wasn't enough power. It was one of those maximum things. Plus, he also knew he was dying. So he's like, I've got this is the death moment. I've got to bring him back right now. This is it. And I was like, man, because the fact that, it was neat because the shard had actually fused with Bruce. So he had to rip that out of himself, which, again, you ask any father, any mother, would you give your life for your child? They'll all say yes. And so there's no doubt that Bruce would do that. And the amount of pain that had to be to rip that from him and then, do that to bring Damian back. Those were some really powerful panels that not only just story-wise, but this artwork was just, the beautiful look on the face, but these heavy red, focused backgrounds, just this massive amount of energy that was just coming off of all of the pages. And you get really pulled into it. And then you go through that and you have that touching moment where Damien's back and he's like, Father. And I'm like, yes. I'm high-fiving myself. I'm hooping and hollering. The look on everyone's face. I love the look on Alfred's face when Damien and Bruce first hug. Because one, you look at Alfred, he's armed for the bear. He's got a rocket launcher on his back and all sorts of other hardware. And he was ready for whatever was going to come through that gate. But even he's got the stun. All of them have that stunned look, and you've got that loving moment, and you're just like, yes, everything's good. And you flip pages, and you're like, no, oh, what's going on now?
But none of that matters if the build doesn't match the moment. The build here matched the moment. These people that are in the room with him that are watching in such awe, we've seen them through this storyline teaming up with Batman, seeing him go through the darkest hour on all this. And in the end, they're like, Batgirl's like, oh my God, he really did it. Just that moment and her smile there and all of them kind of both Red Robin and, Jason's reaction to the whole thing kind of going, oh my God, this actually happened. Just such a great thing. I loved seeing Damien with Titus.
Yeah.
You know how Titus is instantly recognizing this is my guy. He's back. And as with anything, we still got Robin Rises Alpha.
Yeah.
With more to come. Now, do you know, I don't want to spoil anything. Do you know what the twist is with Damien?
No idea.
Okay. I'm not going to say anything to you then because you haven't seen. I knew Damien was coming back before this because it had been revealed and there's a twist. And I'm not going to tell you what the twist is. The twist is going to be revealed in Alpha. So there's more to this story that's going on. But oh my gosh, this just delivered everything that I wanted. In the end, we talked about this on the show. We were debating, do we want Damien back? Do we not? Why? Why not? In the end, I wanted him back. I'm so thrilled. That he's back. I can't wait to see what they do with him next.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, my wonderful little psychopath is back, and I'm like, I don't know what to say. Especially you got Bruce going down, but he's not going to die because it's Bruce Wayne. They're going to bring him back somehow, or he's not going to be completely dead, or I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen just because he's Bruce Wayne. But again, I love those moments of those two. It's like, is this a dream? You're wide awake. You're alive, and you're here with me. You're here with me. We got you back, boy. And just as he's telling him, that's when Bruce goes down. And it was like, oh man, this is awesome. I'm very excited to have Damien back, and the twist, we'll see what happens with that. Don't tell me. And I'm going to try to avoid looking it online, even though right now I'm dying to know what happens. But I'm going to wait. This is one that I've been avoiding spoilers. I honestly didn't know 100% they were bringing back Damien. I suspected that it was going to happen, but I wasn't 100% certain on it. So this was one that, we do a spoiler podcast, and I spoil it, for people, but that's why we give the warnings. And that's why we do it, because this story I didn't want a spoiler on. And I don't want stories going forward on Damien. I wanted something epic. I wanted something that's going to have me cheering and gushing and going, yes, yes, yes. And I got all that. So this has been I'm very excited, very happy Damien's back.
I am too. It's really, really good stuff. And he's a terrific character. And I can't wait to see what we end up doing.
Holy caffeine!
Now, wait a second. Before we go on to actually doing the closing ads, you amaze me sometimes in the things you come up for the podcast and your preparation for them. You were doing what with the spoiler warning at the beginning?
I was singing that in my car on my way to work. And I'm not just once. I've been every day just so I can get it down, because it's a lot of times I'll come up with an idea when I'm driving or when it's not, and it just popped in my head. And, those Christmas music was on the one channel we have in Cleveland, runs just Christmas music now. And they had some Christmas songs I'm going through, and that just popped. That was one of the songs. I was like, hey, the Raging Bullets podcast. And I started building it. And it was something that as I'm driving into work, this past, week or so, I've just been singing that song over and over and over again. And so I can get it down. It's,
That's funny. And I think that was very good because I figured at some point in time in the closing of the opening, we'd start mentioning the holidays. And, before we click into our regular closing ads and things like that we normally do on the show, I just want to thank everyone for listening to the podcast. We're heading into the end of the year. We'll actually do one more episode before New Year's hits. But I just want to thank everyone for listening. You guys are a true gift to us. I'm amazed at, we've been doing this, it's almost 9 years now, right? In March.
I'm getting close to 9 years now.
Yeah, which that time has flown by for me. But we've made a lot of wonderful friends. Many of you we've met at conventions or online or in a variety of different places. Some of you just listen quietly and you just enjoy the podcast and keep coming back every week. Wherever you fall in that category, whether you're a casual listener that comes by every so often or you listen to every episode and every segment that we do, we really appreciate you. And whether you celebrate Christmas or not or whatever your holiday season looks like, I just hope that it's wonderful and happy for you and your families and that you really enjoy it. Want to remind everyone about our show website, ragingbullets.com. That's when you find out when the shows are released. That also ties into our Twitter, but our show website always has our show notes for every episode up there. Besides that, that's where you clickable links to our show sponsors and just ways to find out news about what's happening with the podcast. It links to our Twitter. We do have a Facebook group. It's a wonderful community. We share that with Infinite Comics, and I want to thank the wonderful community of people that participate there every week because it has gone so far beyond our podcast, and that is due to the wonderful and amazing people that participate there. So thank you for doing that. We also have Google Plus pages. I have personal pages. You have a personal page yourself, Jim. And then besides that, I have my PlayStation Network IDs up on Raging Bullets, so please feel free to go get that. It's actually Raging _Bullets. So if you're on the PlayStation Network, feel free to add me on there. It's always great to interact with people on the show, whatever social media or gaming or whatever you do. Feel free to add us. We like connecting with you. So, sponsoring this episode once again is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, pick up the Harley Quinn Variants Bundle. All those books together are regularly $74.78, 45% off, only $41.12. Remember, they are a digital partner with Comixology and My Digital Comics. Be sure to go over to that website, link your accounts. It doesn't cost you anything more, but you earn 5% of those purchases towards your DCB service order. Over at InStockTrades.com, they have the Batman and Robin hardcover Volume 5, The Big Burn. That's a 178-page book, regularly $24.99. 50% off, only $12.49 from InStockTrades.com. Orders of $50 or more give you free shipping over at InStockTrades.com. Jim, our next episode, we're going to continue talking comics. We're going to do the Batman universe and continue off with some of the books that we haven't discussed recently. But we'll actually probably throw in a few surprise favorites that you and I have been enjoying recently. That'll be our year-end wrap-up. And we will see everyone then.
Bye!
On November 13th, Sean Whalen was asked to stop constantly talking about comic books. That request came from his wife. Deep down, he knew she was right, but he also knew that someday he would find someone that would talk to him. With nowhere else to go, he appeared at the home of his childhood friend Jim Segulin. Sometime earlier, Segulin's boss had requested that he shut up about his comic books and never speak of them again. Can two grown men put out a DC Comics podcast without driving each other crazy? It's Raging Bullets, the DC Comics fan podcast. With Sean Whalen as Dr. Norge, and Jim Segulin as the Sensei of the Whatnot and the Duke of You-Know. It's a spoiler podcast, so they will go in depth into the plot line, story twists, and whatnot of the comics they are reviewing. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you may better enjoy the show.